Hey, time travelers and He-Man fans, it's time to once again go back in time and take a look at an early draft of the storyline that eventually became Masters of the Universe. Now, if you haven't seen part one of this video already, you should probably watch part one first, because this is the second half of the document, and if you haven't heard about the first half, you're going to be a little lost, especially because there's some odd characters showing up. So what we're reading here is the original draft of Masters of the Universe that was entitled The Fighting Foemen by Donald F. Glut. Donald Glut was he was a science fiction comic book writer. He's also known for writing the Empire Strikes Back novelization, and he wrote the first 4 Masters of the Universe mini-comics that came out in 1982. But before he wrote those mini-comics, he wrote a draft of the story. So I'm going to use a lot of the artwork from those mini-comics in this video, just because there are no accompanying images, but a lot of the images from those mini-comics do, more or less match up. So we'll do our best. It's not going to be a perfect match of image to story, but, suspend your disbelief, because you're going to hear a story that's, I don't think, ever been read out loud before. Now, it has been available, however. In 2009, we did a art book at San Diego Comic-Con, and some of the pages were printed in the art book. This is the second half of those pages, which is the summary of the first comic book, the first mini-comic book. This is the art book itself, which, if you haven't seen, it's pretty cool, though. I know we were only allowed to do 1,000 units per legal reason, so we couldn't distribute as many as we might like to have. But we did have the additional pages in a case that was behind the desk here. So I actually thought fans were going to put it together and read the pages in the case and read the pages in the art book, and between those two spots you got the whole story. But no one ever really put them all together. But that's okay, because that's what we're going to do today. So pull up your super awesome reading chair with extra space for the kiddies. We're kicking it off, or at least continuing it, with part 2 of The Fighting Foemen. In the woods of He-Man's former tribe, a beautiful young woman named T-La is captured by Ka-Man. Her people come to her defense, but are suddenly confronted by Woodsman and D-Man. Woodsman commands the vines and plants to attack the tribe, while D-Man adds to the attack by firing his laser weapon. Ka-Man makes good his escape with T-La, with D-Man and Woodsman following. Elsewhere, He-Man is busy starting his new life away from his tribe. Putting on a costume that increases his strength, he starts building himself a dwelling by carving out huge slabs of rock from the mountainside and setting them into place. He is interrupted by Wingman, who flaps overhead with his hawk wings. Wingman says that lights have been observed in the windows of Castle Grayskull, and he fears it may have been taken over by evil beings seeking the legendary power gem. He wants He-Man to go with him to investigate. He-Man is angry for the interruption, saying he chooses his own adventures, and hurls a boulder at Wingman to drive him away. At the castle, Beastman awaits the return for his 3 henchmen with their prize, the lovely T-La. When she is brought to him, she panics and tries escaping the castle, only to fall victim to one of the castle's numerous traps. Beastman says that soon he will have the power gem that will make him supremely powerful and the ruler of all Eternia, and that she will then become his bride. She cringes at the terrible thought. Meanwhile, as He-Man finishes his rock dwelling, he sees stepping out of the jungle a number of his former tribesmen. They relate to him how T-La was captured and taken away to be given to the Beastman, He-Man's natural and worst enemy. Now his attitude changes. Donning another costume, the one that gives him his force field, he gets into his chariot and starts rolling in the direction of the distant Castle Grayskull. Wingman, in his flying craft, flies low over the castle, where he is spotted by Beastman and his cohorts. D-Man creates a storm, and Wingman finds himself trying to dodge bolts of lightning. He dons his wings in time to bail out, before a bolt destroys his ship. But as he saves himself, he is defeated by Ka-Man, whose dangerous breath burns his wings to a cinder. He drops into the waiting arms of Beast-Man. Beast-Man says that Wings-Man's presence has given him an idea of how to find the power gem. Use a hero. In the sea, Mer-Man notices the temperature of the water changing. It begins to boil and becomes intolerable. Surfacing, he discovers it is the work of D-Man, who is using his demonic powers to create a heat wave. Finding himself dehydrating, Mer-Man succumbs to the intense heat and becomes the prisoner of D-Man. He-Man is still on his way in his chariot, rolling over the rugged terrain, when he is stopped by Man-of-Arms, who wishes to accompany him, having heard that there are wrongs to be righted at Castle Grayskull. The arrogant, single-minded He-Man says he neither needs nor wants any help. Man-of-Arms takes his rejection as a personal insult and challenges him to battle, using one of his fantastic weapons. But the weapon cannot pierce He-Man's force field. And Man-of-Arms is easily defeated by He-Man's strength. Man-of-Arms is left behind and defeated, while He-Man continues on his way. At the castle, Beast-Man, threatening He-Man with more heat, and with the details of his other two captives, Wing-Man and T-La, forces him to do his bidding. Beast-Man reveals an ancient scroll which states that the power gem might be located somewhere beneath the water. There's a subterranean lake beneath the castle, and that is where Beast-Man believes the power gem to be. Mer-Man swims to the bottom of the lake, finding a light in the murky depths. As he grasps the glowing stone, he fears that Eternia is now in the hands of its most evil inhabitant. He-Man, in his chariot, reaches the castle and challenges his enemy, Beast-Man. Beast-Man appears atop the castle, saying that he now can do anything. He holds up the glowing stone, but it does nothing. This is not the power gem. Laughing, He-Man launches his attack with his chariot's weapons, but the angry Beast-Man commands his three cohorts to defend him. D-Man's power cuts through He-Man's force field, after which he is overpowered by the attacking Ka-Man and Woodsman. Now, He-Man, Wing-Man, and Mer-Man are all chained in the castle's torture room. Wing-Man tells He-Man that they should have teamed up earlier. Seeing the captive T-La, He-Man believes at last that Wing-Man was right. He-Man struggles with all his might but cannot break his bonds. Beast-Man laughs when he is interrupted by a commotion from the outside. It is a revived Man-of-Arms making his own attack with his own army of fantastic weapons on Castle Grayskull. Beast-Man orders his cohorts to repel the attack and make Man-of-Arms his prisoner. Also, as this is done, He-Man continues to struggle with his bonds and finally, looking once more at T-La, musters the superhuman effort to break them. Then he frees the others. Outside, Man-of-Arms is fighting valiantly like a true knight of old, but is rapidly falling to the overpowering opposing forces. As he is ready to suffer defeat, He-Man, Wing-Man, and Mer-Man, acting as a team, rush to his defense. Mer-Man and Wing-Man attack D-Man, Ka-Man and Woodsman, while He-Man goes after Beast-Man. While the heroes and villains pit power against power, He-Man and Beast-Man engage in a furious one-on-one battle, a fight which eventually takes them to the very top of the castle. Finally, He-Man manages to raise Beast-Man over his head and threatens to dash him to the ground, while Beast-Man pleads for mercy. Being human and not a beast, He-Man succumbs and lets Beast-Man go, on the condition that he promises that if he and his allies will never return to seek the power gem or cause trouble. Beast-Man promises. As He-Man, T-La, and the other heroes watch the departing villains and prepare to return the young woman to her people, Man-of-Arms wonders if Beast-Man will keep his promise. Probably not, says He-Man, but at least when that time comes, the heroes will be ready for them. For He-Man has learned something this day. Sometimes it is good to have allies in battle. Not always, but sometimes. They make a good team, he says, and someday they might again band together for battle. And that is where the document ends, where the end of what would have been Mini-Comic 1. It's really interesting how the story incorporates things like multiple costumes for different characters, which was definitely part of the original play pattern anticipated for Masters of the Universe, that much like Big Jim or even like Barbie, you'd be able to buy the figure, but then buy different outfits to put the figure in. And in this case, it would give the figure different powers. There's also reference to different parts of Castle Grayskull from the prototype, like the torture chamber, that weren't in the final figure. So very interesting stuff. If you like this, there's definitely more to come. I've got some other kind of cool gems, also things that have been out there, but I'll put them to some visuals for the first time. Stay tuned and keep watching the Spectre Creative channel. If you like this video, as always, a subscription and a like is most appreciated because that helps tell YouTube to share it with more people. And that's the goal of all of this, is to share fun toy knowledge. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.